Let's see how quick I fucking catch you real quick.
Come on, bro. You don't want to do that, bro.
You don't want that.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
No, bro. I'm never the one to fucking...
Don't say nothing, bro. Just let him be. Let him be.
Let's see how quick you are. See how quick you are.
Yeah, but you're going to get banned. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. You want this? It's not worth it. No, you don't need to lie. Look, listen. Before someone will set him straight.
What are you going to do?
Don't let him fight.
You're a grown-ass man.
Go back.
What are you doing?
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. Now, we have been in the system of white supremacy for too long not to understand how it works. And in order to destroy it, we have to know how it works. We have to understand how they use the system to put us in this situation and to keep us here. But we try to explain racism to them when they understand it better than we do. They're the ones who created it. That's why when you start to reflect their tactics back onto them, all of a sudden they understand right from wrong. But when it's time for us to get justice, somehow it's always an excuse on why it can't be done. Now, of course, a lot of us heard about Black Wall Street and we understand the impact that it has on us right now. But we don't hear about what they really did to them and how sick they were. Now, we know how successful Black Wall Street was economically. Back in 1921, there was no illusion of inclusion. So the black dollar stayed in the community for years. And of course, they hated seeing black people with anything. And they try to make it seem like this massacre just happened because a black man raped a white woman. But what they don't tell you is how they already systematically planned on destroying the city. Even before a black man was falsely accused of rape, they already knew what they were going to do to Black Wall Street. Now, it all started when a 19-year-old brother, Dick Rowland, went into the Drexel building to use the bathroom like he does every single day. But that day was Memorial Day, so it wasn't a lot of people downtown. So this brother, Dick Rowland, got on the elevator like he does every single day. And this 17-year-old white girl, Sarah Page, worked as an elevator operator. Now, what they don't tell you about Sarah Page is by 17, she was already divorced. And she would have been considered a low-class, low-quality white woman back in 1919. But whatever happened on the elevator, and he might have just bumped or tripped into her. But whatever happened, this white girl screamed, and this brother ran out of the elevator. And all of a sudden, this low-class white girl turned into the pure white woman. Now, there's no actual account that she said he assaulted her or raped her or did anything to her. And she never actually pressed charges or accused him of anything. But the police claim she said he raped her. Now, this brother Dick Rowland ran all the way home. But eventually his mom and the preacher convinced him to turn himself in. But of course, in no time, newspapers ran stories about a Negro raping a white woman. And within hours, a mob started gathering at the jail to lynch this brother. Now, by 1921, the people was getting tired of all these lynchings. And they were ready to fight back. They called themselves the New Negroes. So at about 9 o'clock that night, about 25 armed black men went down there to offer the sheriff help to protect this young brother. And even though the mob was already at about 500, he sent them back. But the mob kept growing to about 1,500. And then they started trying to break into the jail. So when the black residents heard about it, they went back to the jail, this time with 75 armed black men. But of course, the sheriff turned them away again. But this time when they were leaving, the mob started telling them to surrender their guns. And then when these black men refused, one of them tried to physically take the gun from them. So as they were wrestling with the gun, it went off. And then the mob started shooting at them. And of course, these black men shot back. Now, even though these black men were outnumbered, in the initial shooting, 10 whites were killed and 2 black people were killed. But these black men were heavily outnumbered and heavily outgunned, and they were forced to retreat back to Greenwood. But then the mob started chasing them, breaking into gun stores and hardware stores. And then they started shooting at every black person they saw, man, woman, or child. They caught the first victims off guard, shooting them coming out of a movie theater. And then when the paramedics came, the mob turned on them. Instead, if they tried to help them, they would shoot them. So then the police started deputizing as many people as they could and gave them guns and sent them into the black community. They were saying now you can go out and kill a nigga and the law will be behind you, even though the law was already behind them. The police was telling the mob, come get a gun and go kill a nigga. And then the National Guard went to go protect the white community just in case black residents retaliated. Now the black residents did try to set up barriers around Greenwood, and they were shooting back, doing everything they could to fight the mob. But they started to realize that this was a planned, organized attack on their community, most likely by the government. Multiple witnesses said airplanes started coming by bombing their community. The first of two occasions where America has bombed its own citizens on its own soil. The only other time was in Philly in the 80s when they bombed the black community. Then after they dropped bombs, the mob started looting black businesses and setting them on fire. Now some black residents tried to arm themselves and fight back, but a lot of them tried to run and leave town. But some of the mob had machine guns and they were shooting down men, women, and children as they tried to run away. Shooting them in the back, shooting them from all angles. By 4 o'clock in the morning, more than 20 businesses were already destroyed. And then by 5 o'clock in the morning, the mob finally got past the barricade and they started shooting down everybody they saw. Families had to wake their children up out of their sleep and leave the house without grabbing anything. Most of the black residents leaving town were walking on the train tracks without any shoes. They were still in their pajamas. They didn't have a chance to put their clothes or shoes on. The mob went around robbing dead bodies, taking their money, their jewelry. They were looting their homes. They went from house to house, killing everybody they saw, looting and burning the house down. They even cut the phone line so nobody could call for help. White women were going through black women things, taking whatever they could, while white boys were pulling up their pickup trucks and loading stuff like pianos and everything they thought was nice. And the whole time saying, how could these niggas have better stuff than me? One black veteran thought because he fought for the country that the mob would let him be, so he put on his uniform and stood in his yard at attention. But the mob shot him, looted, and burned down his house. Another elderly couple was murdered just coming from church. Then the mob started tying the bodies of black people onto their cars and dragging them around the town, while they were lynching other bodies, shooting it up, using it as target practice. They even killed one white man because they thought he was a black man. Then at about 9 o'clock in the morning, the National Guard finally arrived. But before they did anything, they sat and ate breakfast first. Now, there were crowds of white people, male and female, of all ages, that came just to watch it. And a lot of them was taking pictures like they were sightseeing or on some kind of vacation. So then the black residents that managed to get out of Greenwood, when they got to the edge of town, they realized the mob had surrounded the town and had machine guns sitting up on hills so they could shoot down at anybody trying to escape. Then at about 11:30 in the morning, the federal troops finally took action and martial law was declared. But then they started rounding up every black survivor who was still in Greenwood and taking them to concentration camps. They forced them to sign out identification cards, and it had to be signed by a white employer. So basically, if you don't have a white person to vouch for you, you will be arrested and put back into a concentration camp. And they were putting so much stress on them at these centers, pregnant women were giving birth prematurely. By the time it was over, every person in Black Wall Street was either killed, arrested, injured, or placed in detention centers. 250 to 300 people were killed, and probably more. They dumped a lot of bodies in the river, and they're still looking for the mass grave today. Close to 10,000 people were left homeless, 1,256 homes were destroyed, and another 215 that were looted but not destroyed. 191 businesses were destroyed, several schools, hospitals, churches, all of it destroyed, and not a single person punished. And now close to 100 years later, we're still asking and begging for justice. But while they never actually punish themselves for crimes they do commit, they do punish us for crimes we didn't commit. In Kansas City, a brother Lamonte Mcintyre spent 23 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Now let's go back and see what happened to this brother Lamonte Mcintyre.
Guilty. One word, sealing Lamonte Mcintyre's fate.
And it's bothered me ever since that day.
For the first time, a juror is speaking publicly about the case. Greg Lauber says that he now believes that Wyandotte County jury was wrong.
Basically, I chickened out and voted to convict, and I've regretted it ever since.
He points to the 3-day trial in 1994.
He took the shotgun shell, he fished it out of a plastic evidence bag with a pencil,
Lauber recalls an investigator carefully handling one of the 4 shell casings from the scene, while telling the courtroom prints couldn't have been lifted. McIntyre's attorney asks, is there no attempt to take any prints off of any of these shells? The investigator, not to my knowledge, no, sir.
At this point, I'm thinking, this defense lawyer's got him now. He's got him in a bind.
But there were no further questions. Police never found the murder weapon.
Looked something like this.
It left Lauber, an avid hunter, with doubts.
You would stick it in there and slide it in with your thumb until it locks.
Questioning why police didn't even try to pull prints. The case relied heavily on witness testimony and not physical evidence.
They didn't care about anything. They just had their man. And that was good enough.
And it was enough for the 12-person jury.
We were selected on a Monday.
In deliberations, Lauber says he and another juror were holdouts, but it was late in the day and there was mounting pressure from others who wanted a verdict.
Maybe I had an opportunity to, do something good on that jury, but I sure didn't do it. I took a coward's way out.
Haley Harrison, KMBC 9 News.
Wow. Lamonte Mcintyre's reaction to that guilty verdict? Disbelief. McIntyre turned 40 years old in a Kansas prison last week. His attorneys have filed a motion to have his sentence vacated.
KCK man who was convicted of murder more than 2 decades ago walks out of the courthouse a free man.
Lamonte Mcintyre has always said he's innocent, and he even had the support of the family of the alleged victim, who told a judge in court this week that they do not believe McIntyre killed their loved one.
We have in-depth coverage on his exoneration.
Well, Brad and Ellen, let's back up. I have to say, when I first began investigating this, it sounded like something you would see on Netflix. Here you have a man saying, I've been wrongly imprisoned for 23 years. And the defense team says this isn't just sloppy police work. If you dig deeper, you're going to find corruption and a vendetta. There's a dirty cop who's going around doing all sorts of things and then offering women a choice, sex or jail. And one of the alleged victims is Lamonte Mcintyre's own mother. There were 2 Innocence Projects that were working on this case. They have spent about 8 years of investigation. They have done more than 100 interviews. The founder of Centurion Ministries told the judge, hey, I've been doing this for 40 years, and I've never seen anything as sloppy and as bad as this. And did you know the KCK Police Department closed this case in just 6 hours, and they didn't talk to all of the eyewitnesses. At moments, the judge could not hold his face. And we have showed you how that detective put 3 of Rosie McIntyre's relatives in one lineup. Also, that investigator called out Detective Roger Golubski by name and said, Judge, this guy, he's the most corrupt cop I've ever seen, and all I do is look at wrongful convictions across the nation. 40 years, 90 cases. Listen to me. So we are back at court this morning, and an ethics expert from Yale starts reviewing alleged ethics violations of the judge and the prosecutor. They had an affair and didn't disclose it. That happened before the trial. And that ethics expert reviewed some other pretty jarring allegations, and he concluded this was not a fair trial. On top of that, Rosie McIntyre, the mother of Lamonte Mcintyre, was ready to testify. She spoke briefly, we went to lunch, and when things were really going to start coming out, everything stopped, and the district attorney said, hey, this is about justice and fairness. But you have to sit there and wonder, did they decide, okay, let's stop airing all of the dirty laundry in KCK? So here is my question. What happens next? Who investigates Roger Golubski? The DA said, not him. It should be the KBI or the FBI. And that's what the chief told me 2 weeks ago. We sat down and reviewed all of those stunning affidavits, and he said there needs to be an independent investigation. As for Detective Golubski, he became a captain. He worked on a whole lot of cases, and he has an attorney. Now, we have reached out to him multiple times, and that attorney, they have declined to make any comments. I will keep taking a look at this. The other person who's looking at all of this is Lamonte Mcintyre. When he came out of jail about an hour ago, that's one of the things he talked about. There needs to be justice in this case. People need to be reviewing the police and the prosecutor.
So back in 1994, this brother Lamonte Mcintyre was arrested for a double murder when he was 17 years old. Now it turns out this detective Roger Golubski was raping his mom the whole time. This detective Roger Golubski would work with drug dealers and set up and fix cases. And this dude repeatedly raped black women. He would either threaten them with physical violence or say he would arrest them or arrest somebody they love if they don't comply and give him what he want. And he was doing the same thing to this brother Lamonte Mcintyre's mom, even taking her back to the police precinct to do it. Now, when you have people like this terrorizing us or raping our women constantly, what do you think should happen to him? If a black man did that to a white woman, what do you think would happen to him? Now, everybody in the police department knew what he was doing. It wasn't a secret. He would even brag about it. But they kept giving him promotions and raises. Now, when this brother Lamonte Mcintyre's mom finally got the courage to say no and decided to stand up for herself and stop the abuse, this detective Roger Golubski took it out on her and got revenge and put 3 of her relatives in the same lineup for a double shooting, including her son Lamonte Mcintyre. Then this detective went out his way to make sure this brother got convicted, even though he knew he didn't commit this crime. There was no evidence, no fingerprints. They didn't even try to investigate. And the jury, which was most likely all white, still found him guilty. Even the family of the victims who were killed stood with this brother Lamonte Mcintyre knowing he didn't commit the crime. They said they weren't going to stop until this brother gets justice as well. But the police closed the case in 6 hours. His defense team didn't really help him. The judge and the prosecutor had an affair. And they never really cared about the facts in the case. They just wanted to convict him and get it over with. And then after 23 years, they finally reopened the case and realized this brother didn't have a fair trial. And then as soon as his mom was about to testify and blow the whole thing up, the judge decided to just let him go so the mom don't expose him. Now, this brother was in jail for more of his life than he's been out of jail. He was 17 when he went to jail, and he's 40 now. And he tried to file a lawsuit, but this cop who everyone knows is a criminal and a rapist was never charged or punished at all.
A lawsuit leveling charges against the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department. They're accused of sexual assault, falsifying evidence, victimizing an entire community, and ignoring a systematic abuse of power for decades.
It was filed on behalf of Lamonte Mcintyre, who spent 23 years in prison for a double murder he didn't commit.
Well, Mcintyre is free now, and today, almost a year since his release, he names specific officers in that suit, including current police chief Terry Zeigler. Here's our investigative reporter, Angie Raccono.
This lawsuit is about what happened to Lamonte Mcintyre. He was wrongfully accused, and in the end, he spent half of his life in prison for a crime he did not commit. The lawsuit says this was no accident and no isolated incident of sloppy police work. This was business as usual.
I don't have faith in the process. I don't have faith in the process at all. I got faith in the truth.
And I want to make sure that we keep the community's trust and confidence in our department.
The women say you had to submit to Golubski sexually.
This was a forced act.
Man, that's extravagant.
McIntyre's case became nationwide news because what happened to him was so terrible. He was just 17 years old when he was arrested. Turns out he was innocent. And McIntyre's legal team says the truth behind his case is that a predator cop roamed the streets of KCK. Former detective Roger Golubski is accused of working with drug dealers, fixing cases, and giving women a terrible choice: sex or jail.
This is why that's evil. You don't hurt people like that. He tore me out. He tore my insides out.
Lamonte Mcintyre's mother is one of more than a dozen women who claim Detective Roger Golubski sexually abused them.
And I submitted only because I was afraid that Golubski would arrest or me.
She claims when she had the courage to say no to Golubski, she paid the price. Her son and 2 other family members all ended up in the same police lineup. It was revenge.
If it was 1 or 2 people, you always, as an investigator, me personally, I always take it with a grain of salt. I document what they've told me, but once I start getting more and more people saying the same thing, it starts being more credible.
McIntyre's legal team spent 10 years investigating what they say was a sick, corrupt culture in the KCK Police Department, and they say Golubski was the worst. Golubski's name appears more than 200 times in this 51-page suit, but there are more than a dozen others, all accused of knowingly participating in or turning a blind eye to Golubski's alleged corruption. Even the estates of dead officers are being sued. It claims the entire department knew Golubski was running the streets, and superiors even joked about it. Golubski never sought to conceal his misconduct from KCK PD officers and supervisors. Although Golubski's corruption was common knowledge at the KCK PD, he was never reprimanded and was instead promoted, becoming a captain before his retirement. The few KCK PD officers who were disgusted by his misconduct kept quiet to avoid retaliation. Golubski had powerful friends in the department, including the current chief, his former partner, Terry Zeigler.
Did you ever personally work with Golubski?
Yes.
Did you hear of any of these allegations?
There was nothing that I ever learned about him that I was like, ooh, that's not good, or that I need to report up the chain of command.
This is Chief Zeigler about a year ago when he agreed to sit down and talk with KCTV5's investigative unit about his former partner. We contacted Zeigler and the KCK Police Department tonight about the explosive allegations in the lawsuit. We were told they would respond tomorrow.
Should nobody have to go through something like that. And people whoever was responsible or had a hand in it, I think they should be brought to justice.
McIntyre has been outspoken since his release about the need for accountability. It's tough to see the progress. Allegations against Golubski have now been public for years. KCK batted the mess to the Kansas Bureau of Investigations, which has yet to bring any criminal charges or reveal what they have learned in their investigation.
The point of this lawsuit is clear. McIntyre and his mother say the city and those officers should pay for what happened to them. But the lawsuit goes way beyond one family. It puts damning allegations against the entire department in a legal filing. It takes 51 pages to spell it all out.
Now, the police chief, Terry Zeigler, was the partner of Roger Golubski at the time. But he claimed he didn't know about anything that was going on. He was clueless. But the whole department knew about it and even joked about him raping black women. They were joking about how a lot of their children were his. But the police chief, Terry Zeigler, said they never got any complaints, so they never investigated him. Now, even though eventually he did try to throw him under the bus, the police chief got caught up in his own corruption.
Pastor Rick Barron says he quit after making a death notification with Detective Roger Golubski to a mother whose son died in police custody.
Detective Golubski basically stood over her and berated her and told her that she was part of the system, her son was part of the system.
Golubski is named in a new federal lawsuit filed Thursday by Lamonte Mcintyre and his mother, Rose. The suit says Golubski forced Rose McIntyre to perform a sexual act at the police station. It also says after she moved away, Golubski retaliated by framing McIntyre for a double murder.
The Kansas City, Kansas Police Department never received any complaints internally or externally regarding any of the allegations mentioned in the lawsuit, and therefore we didn't investigate it.
That's KCK Police Chief Terry Zeigler, who released a pre-recorded statement today addressing no questions from the media about the lawsuit. He's mentioned in that lawsuit as knowing about Golubski's actions since he was his partner.
I can't believe that he didn't know. It's hard to believe that he didn't know. But I guess it'll come out in court.
Surprise announcement this afternoon from the KCK police chief. Terry Zeigler announced his last day will be September 11th. His retirement comes in the midst of a criminal investigation to determine if he broke the law concerning a lake house deal. Now, 41 Action News investigator Andy Alcock broke the story about that investigation. He's here now with more.
Yeah, Krista, we reported the Kansas Bureau of Investigation turned over its findings to Wyandotte County District Attorney Mark Dupree in May. To date, Dupree has not publicly revealed what he plans to do. At issue is the chief's deal to rent a taxpayer-owned house at Wyandotte County Lake Park. Records we obtained show Zeigler took paid time off from his job as chief while also getting paid from the unified government for labor, materials, and gas mileage to fix up the lake house. Zeigler says his decision to retire has nothing to do with that investigation, and he says KBI cleared him of wrongdoing. However, community activist Janice Witt, who first filed a complaint about the lake house deal last year, has a different take. Here's both Zeigler and Witt.
The house deal, the KBI sat down with me and my attorney. They said that I've done nothing wrong. There's no probable cause for misdemeanor or felony charges. The investigators at the Attorney General's office are aware of that. and the files in the district attorney's office.
I think that whatever prompted him to make this retirement move has a whole lot less to do with the fact that it was just a great time for him and more to do with the fact that the community is rising up and we're saying no more corruption.
So this police chief, Terry Zeigler, got caught up and now he want to retire. Probably so he could try to keep his benefits. It turns out he was stealing money from taxpayers to pay himself to fix up the house he was living in that was paid for by taxpayers. And so he's just going to retire and let it go away. And his brother Lamonte Mcintyre still haven't been compensated. They still don't even really want to fully clear his name. They can't admit they were wrong because that would make him guilty. And they still have to protect themselves. But how should we as a community be responding to cops like this detective and anybody else who do the things he do? I can't be mad at them for enforcing their system. It's to help them survive. But we have to realize it's not in our best interest. It's not designed for us. But we have to start responding with more urgency than they do to get out of the position that we are in. At the end of the day, we are all we got. If we don't do it, then nobody else will.
My father had this pickup truck, which he had built a crate on the back to carry the greyhounds in. And he took that crate off when he left the greyhounds, wherever it was. He left them at some kennel or other and just had a plain pickup truck. And the police saw his truck and they told him to haul bodies, dead bodies, to wherever they were taking them. I don't know where they took them.
And I saw these 2 truckloads of bodies, dead bodies. They were Negroes with their arms and legs sticking out, through the slats. And it frightened me so, but I kept thinking of them in terms of dolls. On the top of the very, very top of the pile of bodies was a little boy just about my age, and his head flipped over like that. And he looked at me, his mouth was open, and he was in brown pants and a blue shirt, and just looked like he'd been frightened to death. And so I screamed that Jesse came in, but by that time the 2 trucks had passed on.
After black Tulsans were incarcerated, curiosity seekers, looters, and souvenir hunters casually strolled through the smoldering ruins.
Well, I had a friend, a girlfriend, and one day after the riot had subsided, or possibly was still, they were still protecting and giving the colored people sanctuary. Well, she came out and she had a package of spearmint gum, Wrigley spearmint gum, and perhaps there were 40 or 50 packages of gum in the little square box, about so square and maybe 2 inches deep, and she was passing the gum out to all the kids in the neighborhood. And of course we asked, where did you get it? And she said, oh, Daddy got it over in Niggertown, which was a clear indication that white people looted the colored people over in the Greenwood area. When they doubted about it, of course, we didn't think anything about it. We just took the gum and chewed it.
Yeah, look at this, man. We leaving out the hospital like this, because I got officers coming all in my room while my girl is naked. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, Pat, y'all need to get our stuff out of there.
Just you need to meet your lady.
We need our. She don't want to stay. This is my wife. You dumb.
No.
Man, you sound stupid. This is my wife. Go. Okay. We need our stuff so we can go. Thank you.
Okay. Can you give the baby so you can get your stuff?
Man, you suck.
No, I don't even know what y'all trying to do.
Listen,
we up out of here.
Let's go.
Get our stuff.
Saying you're harassing.
Making
racial statements.
He was not making racial
No,
statements.
I prefer Asian.
And that's not
racist.
Like that?
That's a preference.
That's a preference, exactly. He just said to them that
oh, this is good. This is all real good.
and they already knew that. So why all of a sudden now it's racist?
You're more than welcome to go grab your stuff if you'd like I said.
Babe, go and I'll go.
I
I'll get a wheelchair.
Go get dressed, booty. Go in there and get dressed.
No, I'm not.
Come on, let's go get dressed. Come on. Go ahead. You ain't got nothing to worry about, trust me. I own this hospital, boy. Now, we would like privacy while my girl get dressed. Thank you.
Okay, there's
Here we go again.
Dude, there's a
Here we go
privacy
again.
screen right
Here
there.
we go
Right behind the
again.
privacy
Wow.
screen.
Why can't he close the door?
Wow.
Because it's a safety issue.
You guys are right
Safety issue.
We
Wow.
can't see what's going on.
At this time, I can't.
At this time, you can't tell them to leave? Okay, while my girl is naked. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, and it's like 4, 5 other officers outside too. My baby right here. These dudes rushed up in here, man. Because we asked for a breast pump. We asked for a breast pump. Don't you know they tried to talk us out of using a breast pump?
We already got
So the woman argued me. She argued me up and down, telling me no.
all of a sudden.
So I say, I don't want no, okay, I want a new nurse. Can we get a new nurse? I don't want you to be my nurse no more.
Ask for a new nurse.
And then they send the police. Straight like that, honest to God truth. But it's okay. But it's okay. Hey, my girl's naked. I'm finna close this door. She's breastfeeding.
Can you come out and talk to us?
No, I don't need to. We're finna leave. We're getting dressed and we're finna exit out of this hospital. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead and do that.
Excuse me.
Do that. Okay.
Wow, you see this? Excuse me.
You're being recorded too, so.
Okay, that's great. So, like I said, my girl's naked. We're trying to.
Privacy screen right there, right behind
Okay,
you.
so
We can't see her.
we don't need y'all in
Close the
here.
door.
We don't need y'all in here.
Listen, hospital staff.
We don't need y'all in
asking
here.
you to leave.
We are leaving, so leave us alone.
Go change.
Leave us the fuck alone. Bye. My girl is naked. Can y'all please get out? Please.
Babe, please come here.
Can y'all get out while my girl is naked so we can get dressed and exit out of the hospital? Please.
Babe.
Ma'am, could you step behind the privacy screen for us?
She don't have to do nothing. Quit talking to her. She's holding my baby.
My feet are spread. God. Stop. Oh my God. I'm pregnant. I'm 4 months pregnant. Stop squishing my stomach. Okay, why would he be squishing my stomach like that? In my stomach?
Calm down.
I'm scared.
Don't worry. What they ask you to do.
I did nothing wrong.
Just do what they ask you to do. That's it.
You see my pocket? Ma'am. Are you getting all of this? He has my information. And he has it on the paper. It's Jasmine down. I'm scared to be around you guys. I did nothing wrong. All I asked to do was pay with the coupon, and you guys are frisking me, and you're touching my stomach when I told you I was pregnant. You told me to get my hand out of my pocket. I went like this to show you there's nothing in there. And you won't grab me as if I did something wrong. How am I supposed to relax?
And I'm gonna stay here and watch
I
everything.
know, okay?
Look at this shit.
Jasmine, all that was is you make me nervous when you're reaching inside your pocket.
My hand was already in my pocket, and I told you there was nothing in here. You see, my thing is outside of my pocket. How do I make you nervous when all of you guys are with the guns, and I have nothing? Exactly. I'm 4.5 months pregnant, and you're gonna tell me you're scared of me? And you got 5 people here with guns? This is every single time. On the news, you guys see every single one of this? Because so many people get killed because y'all do that to people. Telling me that you guys are afraid of us when there's 5 different people with guns. And I have nothing. I have a baby in my stomach. All I did was ask to use a coupon. I used to pay with a coupon. And this is how far it gets taken?
We just came here. We have no idea what had happened.
Well, you guys should have known about the call before you came here. The guy even radioed and said he didn't need backup. And there's 3 different police cars here with 5 different people. I'm not relaxing.
I'm just trying to talk to you.
Just calm down.
Okay.
Just try. I was here from the beginning. I know you know what? This isn't what you see on the news all the time. Just calm down and listen. I know you're upset, but just try to calm down.
I've never been in trouble.
I know.
I've never gotten cops called on me, nothing.
And it doesn't sound
So
like
to be pregnant and have 5 different people come up here and then interrogate me, somebody have a gun on me?
We have to make sure that everybody is safe, okay?
Calm
Y'all
down.
didn't check my purse, y'all didn't check nothing. But y'all seen all the
Exactly.
coupons that spilled out of my thing, right? It was all coupons. Yes, I literally wanted to pay with the coupon and they told me to leave.
It's ridiculous.
Well, if that's all it is, it sounds like it's just gonna...
Yeah, I'm trespassed from here now, but I don't care. You see how far this got?
Fareed Hashim is accused of breaking a woman's jaw while she was 5 months pregnant in an apparent road rage incident. Police say Naisha Woods was pulling out of a parking space at her sister's apartment near Arapahoe and North Dallas Tollway when she nearly hit Hashim on his motorcycle. Moments later, Hashim pulled into her lane, swearing, and threw an object at her, according to Naisha Woods. Woods exited and got out of her car to see if it had any damage, and at that time, Woods says Hashim got off of his bike, and when Woods said she was 5 months pregnant, she claims he spit in her face and assaulted her. Dallas criminal attorney Justin A. Moore says when police arrived, they made Woods sit on the hot concrete, then wrote her a ticket. Moore is calling for a full investigation and into the officer's conduct and demand Hashim be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Tisha, Kazim Oyanayan has lived in this home in North Raleigh for the past 5 years. It's not the first time his home security system has been tripped by mistake. Typically, he say, if police show up, you show your ID, you prove you're the homeowner, there may be a fine to pay, but it's over. That is not what happened last Saturday. Kazim says he was humiliated inside of his home by police and suspects it was because of the color of his skin.
Turn around and face away from me. What? Turn around and face away from me.
Watching the surveillance tape from inside Kazim's home in North Raleigh, there's Kazim in his boxer shorts in the foyer of his home, staring down the barrel of a Raleigh police officer's gun.
This was one of the most humiliating experiences of my life.
Let's start at the top of the tape, 12:30 p.m.
You're inside, make yourself known.
The officer arrives to Kazim's unlocked front door.
Residential 44. Born route.
He's responding to a 4-4, a burglar alarm in progress. Kazim says a friend stayed over that night and tripped the alarm unknowingly when he left. Kazim says he disengaged it and went back to sleep.
Just laid back down, and all I heard was somebody screaming downstairs. So I grabbed my firearm because I don't know what's going on, and I run down the steps, and it's a cop.
Come on out with your hands up. Okay, all right, just come on out. You got a firearm in your hand? Yeah. Drop the gun. Drop the gun.
Kazim immediately dropped his gun. He does have a concealed carry permit. The 31-year-old makes his living as a well-known party and hip-hop concert promoter known in the industry as Tim Boss. But on Saturday, Kazim says the officer refused to believe he lived there.
Come on out here. Just come on out for me.
What you mean, come on?
Just come on out of the house, please.
I got on my drawers.
Come on out of the house, okay? Turn around. Turn around. Put your hands behind your back.
Turn around for what?
Put your hands behind your back and get down on your knees.
Tell me for what?
We got 4-4 alarm here. I got open door. I'm trying to make sure.
I just talked to the alarm people.
Well, I'm confused why he's still talking. You just asked me, do I got ID? I told you, yeah, let's identify me. Let's get me out of here. I was like, I need a supervisor. I definitely need a supervisor here because this ain't right.
What have I done wrong? Come on. Let's go. I haven't done nothing wrong.
In handcuffs, wearing just his underwear, Kazim was escorted outside to a waiting police car while officers searched his home.
There's a lot of stories like this that go untold.
Raleigh community advocate Kerwin Pittman.
There's no reason this man should have been pulled out of his own home, not asked for proper identification, and it progressed this far.
Being black could definitely be one of the issues. That's the problem. I hope it's not, but if that's what it is, it just needs to be resolved.
Okay, so we reached out to Raleigh Police about this one. The department responded with a statement. We'll just read part of it. The Raleigh Police Department is looking into this incident and reviewing our officers' actions. We have attempted to contact the homeowner several times over the past few days to discuss this incident with him. Kazim says he just wants an apology. Pittman's calling for disciplinary action against the officer involved.
And check out this cute video that the OKC Zoo just posted.
Okay, you have to see this. This is Finn. We're about to show. Oh my goodness, take a look at him. He's a resident of the Oklahoma City Zoo. And this week, the zoo's ape caretaker took over their Instagram, and we are all loving that they did. And as you can see, Finn was fascinated.
Definitely ready for his close-up there.
Kind of looks like you when you take a picture.
It kind of does, actually, yeah. Very close to the camera.
I'm here this morning because I want to apologize, not only to my coworker, Jason, but to our entire community. I said something yesterday that was inconsiderate,
It was inappropriate, and I hurt people. And I want you to know, I understand how much I hurt you out there and how much I hurt you. I love you so much, and you have been one of my best friends for the past year and a half, and I would never do anything on purpose to hurt you. And I love our community, and I want you all to know, from the bottom of my heart, I apologize for what I said. I know it was wrong, and I am so sorry.
Well, Alex, thank you very much, and I do accept your apology, and I do appreciate your apology. I want to let everybody out there know that Alex is one of my best friends. I mean, we do what we do here, and you know, it's not as if we see each other here and then we leave and we go home. We talk every day, or almost every other day. I've told you things. I've shared things with you as a friend, and I do appreciate you, and I do love you. All that being said, and Alex would be the first to admit to this to you, what she said yesterday was wrong. I've heard the phone calls, and I've heard the Facebook messages as well. And I guess coming out of this, I want this to be a teachable moment. And that lesson here is that words matter. There's no doubt about that. Changing demographics here in this country, the demographics are changing. We're becoming a more diverse country. And there's no excuse. We have to understand the stereotypes. We have to understand each other's backgrounds and the words that hurt, the words that cut deep. And we have to find a way to replace those words with love and words of affirmation as well.
The Alabama Republican governor spent today dodging calls for her resignation after becoming the latest white politician to be swept into scandal over wearing blackface. Major Garrett reports.
I offer my heartfelt apologies for my participation in something from 52 years ago that I find deeply regrettable.
Amid calls for her resignation, Alabama Governor Kay Ivey said she's not going anywhere, adding Alabama is a far cry from the segregationist hotbed it was in the 1960s.
While we have come a long way, we still have a long way to go.
In a 1967 interview with the Auburn student radio station, Ivey and her then-fiancé, Ben LaRavia, revealed they participated in a comedy sketch in which Ivey wore blackface.
She had on a pair of blue coveralls, and she had put some black paint all over her face. It did require a lot of physical acting, and such as crawling around on the floor looking for cigar butts and things like this.
Would you like to defend yourself from this low position that he's placed you in now?
Well, that was just my role for the evening.
Ivey's apology was not enough for Alabama Democratic Congresswoman Terry Sewell, who tweeted, "Her words of apology ring hollow if not met with real action to bridge the racial divide." Ivey finds herself in a similar position to several other white politicians who have admitted to wearing blackface when they were younger, including Virginia Democratic Governor Ralph Northam.
You didn't know the history, know that it was offensive before?
Well, I think we're all on a learning curve, and certainly, Ms. King, I am not the same person now at age 59 that I was back in my early 20s.
Northam ignored calls from fellow Democrats to resign, and his approval ratings have recently improved. In Alabama, Ivey's fellow Republicans have stood by her. If Northam's situation, John, is any indication, Ivey appears well positioned, barring new revelations, to ride this out.
Yeah. What that word means. Don't say that. Don't say that like that. What that word means. What that word means. What? What does that word mean? Like, you're a nigger. What that mean? He's a nigger. What does it mean though? Like, what is a nigger? What is a person or what? Like, what is yeah. How does it make you one? How does it make you one? Are you one? No. Why? Why aren't you one? You're taking a video. Is that on Snapchat? No, it's not. On your pictures? Yeah. Why aren't you a nigger? Cause I'm not. Why? You said he won. He's a baby. So how is he a nigger if he's a baby? That doesn't even make sense. Like, how can you be that? He was just born. No, he's not. He was just not so long ago. I'm saying he's still a baby. So what makes you a nigger? Don't call him that. I'm trying to figure out what makes you that. And how you not one. And you bigger than him. So how? I don't know. So how do you call somebody something you don't even know what it means?
What are you? What are you? If he's a nigger, what are you? Huh? Girl, you crazy. Girl, don't be calling people stuff if you don't know what you don't even know what it is.
He needs help.
Huh?
I said he needs help.
Who?
Him.
Why he need help?
You're asking too much questions.
You don't understand though. I'm just curious. He's a happy baby. I don't think he needs any help. He don't have no problems.
You guys want to go play at the park? Let's go.
They can't go play with you until you tell me what does a nigger mean. No, London. You can't go with her.